Hi, Podtimists. It's Chase. Hi, hello. So this last week, we were invited on to the wonderful podcast Asynchronous, a video game catch-up show, which they're currently talking about current video games, not just games that they've caught up on. Both David and I were on there, and so we figured, hey, why don't we just post that episode here with, of course, the permission from the folks over at Asynchronous. Thank you, AJ and Kim. Because this last week, David was taking a test or studying for a test. So we figured, why not give him a little bit more time to hang out? Didn't want to force him back into the pod chamber, into the pod mines to make more podcasts. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode of Asynchronous. You should give them a look because, hey, it's a good podcast. And without further ado, here is that episode. Enjoy. Bye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Synchronous, a video game zeitgeist show. My name is AJ.
My name is Kim.
And that's right, dear listener. You heard we have transformed once again into a zeitgeist show wherein we will be talking about video games from this year or video games that we have played this year at the very least that maybe people have told us to play, but maybe not.
Maybe games that I was told not to play, but I'm a rebel and I played them.
And we are going to be doing this for the rest of the year. I'm very excited about it, honestly, because I've been playing, surprisingly, other video games, and I'm very excited to talk about them. And for the entirety of this, I guess, season, technically this is season 5.
Sure.
We will be having guests on every episode, which is just thrilling. And the guests today are the hosts of the wonderful show, Video Game Podtimism. You know him, you love him. Chase.
Hi.
Has been here before. He is back.
I'm old news at this point.
Old news. And moving on to the much more exciting, much more important guest on the show today, David. Hello, welcome.
Hello,
Welcome.
AKA the new hotness. That's me.
The new hotness, David. Yes. So delighted to have you both on the show.
Yeah, thanks
Today.
for coming on, guys.
Thanks for inviting us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. We really appreciate it.
Now, just a quick question. Chase, I know you've guested on this show and possibly other shows. David, have you ever been a guest on a podcast?
I have not. This is a new experience for me.
Wow.
This is an
done it.
honor. This is an
Wow.
honor for Asynchronous.
Yeah, thank you for expanding my world.
I think before we get into the games we want to talk about today, before we get into the bullshit, actually, because there is still bullshit.
I'm so
There's
excited
bullshit.
about this. I didn't know this was coming.
Would you guys want to give us a little pitch for what Video Game Podtimism is?
Yeah, I have notes. I can do it.
Okay.
Chase is ready.
Yeah, I have 4 pages of notes for this. I had to write a bunch of stuff
Just
down.
for the Video Game Podtimism portion.
No,
just to
oh
explain
my
what the
god,
show is.
I've written a treatise,
yeah.
an essay about
In the
no.
first episode, we talked
I mean,
about
that would be appropriate because my notes are notoriously long, so it feels like it would be in keeping with the asynchronous spirit.
In this
Yes.
podcast, I will. No, so David and I have been friends for a very long time. We're both in our 30s at this point, and I think we've been friends since we were like 5. So we've been
Wow.
like
Yeah.
talking about video games for the better part of like 30 years at this point. So there was that as a setup. I think in like, David, remind me when this was, but we were like hanging out at your house at some point and it was like, we should do something, right?
It was 2018 or 2017, somewhere
I think
around
so,
there.
yeah.
I think it was 2018 because I think I was done with grad school at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, let's do something because like most of the time that we had grown up, games media was like essentially just like a buyer's guide more than like, and like most of the criticism was aimed at determining whether a game was like worth your money or not. Which like definitely brings its own angle on things. And I don't think this always happens, but often it can heavily focus on like the negatives of a game and like drive the conversation towards that. And so like we had just felt like there was this overwhelming amount of negativity in like the criticism and like games conversation as a whole. And like, it like is spending $60 on Buck Bumble in 2022 worth it? Like probably not, but like without doing the episode that we did about that, I wouldn't have been introduced to like jungle or breakbeat music. So there's still like value in looking at these things as an artistic medium rather than just like a product that is worth buying or not. And so like a lot of what we were trying to do at Podtimism is just figure out like if any individual, like what any individual game is doing right. And then like, cause like a video game will at least do one thing cool. Like most of it can be totally bad, but like Blinks the cat is still cute. Like that was the thing that we found when playing through Blinks was like, cool cat.
Yeah.
Sassy.
And so like, I wouldn't say that we're a show that intentionally ignores the parts of a game that don't work for us, but it usually is just not really the focal point of the conversation. And so our episodes will usually just break down on the lines of like, this is the stuff we're playing, and then looking at usually like an older single game that's like, okay, and then picking out the stuff that we like about it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Succinct.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. Podtimism, like every time I listen, it's just like a breath of fresh air. So you guys like really are succeeding in that mission statement.
Thank you.
And also the spooky stories are my favorite thing in the entire world.
Spooky stories are great.
They just came out. There's fresh ones out there.
Yeah, they were they were so good this year.
They were really good. Yeah, so I guess for context, every October, every spooky season, Chase and David will write one story each.
One story each. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And do it on the show with some nice soundscaping and sound effects. It's a really a great job editing it, Chase.
Thank you. Appreciate you. I do a very hard job of Googling free use spooky horror music and then putting that in the episode.
Yes. Thank you to YouTube for having just people uploading songs.
Shouts out to YouTube, really.
They need it, you know?
Yeah, really underground.
This episode's
video
sponsored by YouTube.
Have you ever wanted to tube? Go to youtube.com.
Wow.
It's the tube for you.
It's the tube for you.
Oh no, this is
great.
It's the tube for you. See, I've never actually thought about the name YouTube as like, I've never actually thought about the word tube in there.
Yeah.
Like I know it's like television, you know, people
Yeah,
used to call it the
tubes.
tube, but like tube doesn't mean that anymore. It's just
It's something else. Maybe you should consider the tube.
consider the tube. If we had episode names, I think that might be what the episode name is.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah, that's a reflex that I think David and I are always trying to find just the most outlandish sentence we can say, just as a way to settle on an episode title before we're finished.
I
on
mean,
something.
that's podcasting, isn't it?
That is podcasting.
Yeah, that's half the work.
It's like, this makes no sense out of context. This is the one.
Yeah. Well, Video Game Podtimism is a great show. I agree with Kim. I'm a huge fan. I've almost been listening for a year. I only got into it in like March or February or something. But you guys are great. I love listening to you guys talk. And I'm excited to have you on the show today. But before we get into talking about games, Kim, what's this bullshit?
Please.
So yes, we do have some bullshit today. Some might call this bullshit. Some might call this an intervention. Because today.
I know where this is going.
Knows it's coming.
No.
Today, we're going to be ranking Chase's known food crimes. And I say known because this is just what I know.
There's so many more.
Well, I can't wait to hear about them and condemn you for them. So background for anyone not on this call, we learned some things about Chase's past vis-a-vis food that were very disturbing. And that only led to him opening up more about it when maybe that Pandora's box should have been kept closed. But here we are. And so we're going to, there are 5 known food crimes, unless I'm missing something. And so we're going to rank them in order from least to most grievous. First up, the least terrible food crime is the bean sandwiches.
Ooh, this is an interesting call for number 5.
Oh, do you think so?
It's essentially. Well, I'll let you get going, but a bean sandwich is essentially a soup sandwich, which is like sort of cursed on its own. But I'm interested to hear your reasoning.
All right, maybe I need to reevaluate this. But here, let me read the description that you provided us, which was, I used to eat, quote, bean sandwiches. Which were just baked beans with ketchup in between a hamburger bun.
Yeah. Delicious.
And the reason why I put this pretty low is that it's bad, but it's bad in the way that English food is bad. Like this is basically beans on toast.
It's basically beans on toast. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not great. But it's not great in the way that our world's worst cuisine is not great.
This could be a cultural difference if set in a different situation. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm sure even the English might balk at the ketchup and the hamburger
The
bun.
inclusion of ketchup, I think, really does make it a little bit more of a crime than just beans on toast.
David, what was it like for you to experience this for the first time?
I'm glad you asked, because I've been, this is the moment I've been waiting for many years at this point, to finally bring Chase's atrocities to the world. And just let people know, let the truth come out. So it was disturbing, to say the least, and especially with the bean sandwich. I would like a clarifying question, because I cannot remember. But were the beans warm, or were they straight from the can? Like, did you just open up the can and put it on there like dog food? I guess the
they have to be warmed. This, I will
Thank
say,
God.
is usually the sort of cuisine that I would eat at like a Thanksgiving.
What?
Did you say cuisine?
Keep going.
So I was a picky eater, if you couldn't tell from the sort of buffoonery that's on my menu. But I didn't really like the stuff that people served at Thanksgiving. My family specifically, like turkey was a tough call for me. I wasn't really into turkey. Gravy was gross. Mashed potatoes were cool. I would have that on the side of my bean sandwich, but the rest of it just wasn't really my bag. And so I unfortunately would make my family be like, I would bring over my can of beans and my hamburger buns and sort of ask like, hey, could you just toss this on the stovetop real quick, heat these up so I can get my Thanksgiving dinner cooking.
So this is special occasion food, is what
Yeah, it's a little treat.
Oh man.
Let's just remember Chase's statement that turkey was not good with him for something that's going to come later on in this list that I know of.
Yes.
That's a great point. Can I just a clarifying question as well?
Sure.
What age was this that you were eating the bean sandwiches?
I was pretty young. I'd say like elementary school age.
Okay. Because you said you were bringing the beans, and so I was worried this was like you would come home from college or something with a can of beans that you bought, at the corner store.
I was learning calculus and eating bean sandwiches.
Right. Yeah.
No. Yeah. No.
Okay.
I was a kid at this point.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
Got it. So next up, we have, I'll just read the quote.
Sure.
I used to eat top ramen without cooking it, just plain.
Yeah.
Now, when you say plain, no seasoning packet was involved here?
No, the seasoning was a little bit over the top, a little rich for my palate.
Too much.
Yeah. It's over the top. There's too much flavor.
Clarifying a lot.
I will say this was also a young man sort of experience. I was pretty young when I was eating this, to the point where my father, when he asked me if I would like to eat top ramen, he would not say, "Would you like to eat top ramen?" He'd say, "Do you want some worms?" And I would say, "Yes, I would like some worms."
That's cute, actually. I'm coming around on this one now.
Yeah.
A fun thing about the dry ramen is I don't know if any of you know anything about through hiking.
I don't.
Or the Appalachian Trail or anything. So through hiking is you just go on a really long hike. So the Appalachian Trail, which is an extremely long mountain range in the United States, is a common thing that people through hike.
Yeah.
So they'll start down in, Georgia or something, and it goes all the way up to like New Hampshire or Vermont or whatever. I don't know. I had a friend who had done this, and one of their favorite trail snacks was just the dry ramen.
Yeah.
Because when you're on the trail, I don't want to waste time setting up the stove, getting the water boiling, doing the whole thing. You just break out that hard brick and just start chomping. So I really think, Chase, if you haven't thought about it before, maybe you should think about backpacking. Maybe you should think about through hiking.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of hikers, that like the best approach to backpacking is to start with what you can eat on the trail, rather than like any sort of like physical prowess or interest in hiking. Is like, would you be able to eat the trash food that comes with hiking?
Right.
So I'll consider it. Go out, break onto the Appalachian Trail and eat some worms, if you know what I mean.
God, eat some worms. The fact that they were hard and also called worms.
Dried worms.
Does it? Yeah, right. I feel like dried worms is the appropriate nickname.
I did not have time for that. I needed to know very quickly what my lunch options were. And my dad was there to offer me worms. So
sure.
That is very efficient in basically every way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do think, I do just want to check in with David for every one of these. Was there a time where Chase just broke out a dry ramen packet and you were not expecting it, or?
Not when I wasn't expecting it. It was usually at lunch at school. And this was definitely a thing at our elementary schools. Like a lot of people would eat this, but they would usually put the seasoning on. Whoa. Chase, I think, is the only one who would eat it just crunchy.
Pure.
So this was like a regional thing, I guess.
It was a strange thing that happened at our elementary school.
It could have been a Sacramento sort of deal. Yeah.
Something in the water up there just made us all eat dry ramen.
Those sickos that live in the valley.
Oh my God.
So third up, we're in the middle of the list here, and this one was actually straight from David.
Yeah.
We found out that Chase used to, quote, chug Tic Tacs at lunch at school.
Pack a day.
A pack a day.
I was doing a pack a day. That is true.
Holy shit.
And Chase, you actually said of this, quote, it was a cool trick I did.
It was a cool trick I did. That was a very cool trick I would do.
Chase is just the Joker at lunch. You want to see a magic trick?
Oh my God. Do you want to know how I got this breath?
I mean, you must have been really fucking minty fresh at the end of that.
I didn't even know what bad breath was in 6th grade. I forgot about it entirely. Yeah. I don't know where this one came from. I think I just had Tic Tacs and like I sort of got into like an escalation war with myself about how many I could eat at lunch.
Yeah.
And they're not particularly expensive little treats, you know?
Yeah.
So you can potentially
The fact
buy
that you're
quite a
calling
few.
them treats, like I feel like people don't usually eat Tic Tacs as like a snack.
I'm a big mint guy. I really like mints as candy.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's not a kid thing. I'm still chomping mints.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I think I also had like a Tic Tac kid.
Yeah.
Like there was a kid who would just eat a whole thing of Tic Tacs. I can't remember anything about them, but they definitely existed. Like I feel like this is kind of a universal experience, maybe.
yeah.
Not a Sacramento thing in this case.
Not just a Sacramento thing.
yeah.
It spread all the way to the opposite coast, all the way over here in New Jersey.
But Chase may have started it.
Chase may have started it. As a
Trendsetter?
matter of fact.
Trendsetter. Mr. Trendsetter.
Before there were TikTokers, there were
Tic Tacers.
Tackers.
Ooh. 90s version of TikTok.
Yeah. Back in my day.
Only 90 kids
Kids
remember.
these days just won't get off their packs of Tic Tacs.
Tonight at 9, is your child chugging a pack a day, destroying your father's finances?
Oh man.
Wow. Wonderful. So now we're really getting into the shit
Yeah.
These are the real crimes, I would say.
because number 2 is Chase, you claim when I was a teenager, I would eat 2-foot-long subs from Subway, 2 feet of sandwich. It gets weirder.
Yeah.
The only thing on those sandwiches were turkey, mayo, and extra mustard.
Yeah.
Extra mustard was important.
I don't want that sandwich to be dry in any location.
Sandwich, yeah.
Yeah.
Just some wet
Sort
turkey.
of a bean sandwich, if you will. Sort of a wet
It's
experience.
an elevated bean
That
sandwich.
is, yeah, we're uncovering kind of a trend here of wet sandwiches, dry noodles.
Yeah. And now, David did make the note earlier, Chase, that you didn't like the turkey at Thanksgiving, but now we're eating 24 full inches of turkey. Where did the switch happen, do you think?
So this may be introducing more questions, but even when I was a kid, I was into sliced turkey. It was just the hot carved version that was.
There's definitely a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it wasn't into Thanksgiving turkey. Seemed a little bit too wild for my taste, but the sliced version, very, very appropriate for me. And then when, of course, I discovered that Subway was in fact good, and I was hungry, I would get two full feet. Got to satisfy that hunger.
Mm-hmm.
It's only $10.
Okay. There was a problem for me at the time because I was a big proponent of Subway sandwiches should be weighed rather than you should just be charged whatever, right? Okay. Because a plain turkey sandwich was not on their $5 footlong menu. It had to be one of those real done up sandwiches that had, toppings on them. But just turkey, mayo, mustard, that's like a $7 sandwich. So I was walking away with like a $14 to $15 endeavor.
Oh my God.
Just for a pile of turkey, a pile of bread, and a lot of mustard.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually just learned about this week. I think it's called Pizza Altolio, I think, something like that. And they charge you per kilogram.
Ooh.
Of pizza?
Yeah, I want 3 kilograms of pizza, and they will cut you 3 like with scissors. They will cut you 3 kg worth of pizza. It's an Italian
It's
thing.
like,
I don't know.
it sounds like ordering fabric. Like fabric is by the yard.
No,
and they
yeah,
just
exactly.
Cut you.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to think about that forever. Just a whole bolts of pizza. Yeah. I have follow-up questions about the sandwiches. What bread? And was it toasted?
Had to be sourdough. Sourdough or nothing.
Okay.
I think that sourdough may be a West Coast bread only, so I'm not sure if that has made its way over to Jersey or not.
I don't know. Growing up in Florida, I don't think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we had the Italian Parmesan or whatever, the white, a wheat, maybe a fourth one, but I don't think it was sourdough.
No, I don't know what was going on, but we were big into sourdough, so the bread was real chewy.
Sure.
So it was a sourdough. And what was your follow-up question on the other part?
Was it toasted?
No toast, please. That's a lot. That sort of changes the texture of the soup inside the sandwich. So
Right.
Mustard soup.
yeah, no, I don't need my mustard to be warmed.
Yeah.
And there was no cheese on it, so it's not like it needed to be melted or anything.
Right. Right.
I think just in the spirit of fairness, David, you're going to Subway. Chase is getting 2 feet of.
I'm getting nearly a yard of Subway.
Yeah. What are you getting?
What's my order at Subway? I'd usually get a meatball sub.
Oh, nice.
That was my jam.
A true $5 footlong.
A true $5 foot long. Yes, that was always my thing at Subway.
They're so hot. Their meatball sandwiches. I've
I mean, like temperature wise or spice?
Just heat wise, I feel like those things come out and I'm like, I really want to eat the meatballs right now, but they're just so hot. I can't do it. Got to cool that down with some mustard.
It's part of the fun.
It's fun.
You never know when it's going to be too hot.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you handle the meatball?
Consider the meatball. This isn't interesting because I was expecting this to be the #1 food crime, which only leaves one other option.
So so I was torn. So I asked AJ to assist me in choosing the top one.
Yeah, I think this one is unconscionable. I think this is unforgivable.
It's the thing. It's not that it itself is a problem. It's like the ancillary details. So the #1 food crime is that Chase used to make a breakfast of just one hard-boiled egg from Starbucks, I believe.
From Starbucks, yeah. They were serving
Starbucks.
just a single egg for a little while there.
Yeah. And the thing that put this over the edge for me is the detail that you would eat it in one bite.
Yeah.
And an egg, like, it's not impossible to eat a hard-boiled egg in one bite, but it is a challenge.
Yeah. It was a fun little treat for me.
The challenge?
Yeah, the challenge to see how my day was going to go. It's sort of like the mood rings you would put on to see, like, can I eat the whole egg today? If I could, day's going to be good. If I couldn't, then, maybe there's some challenges coming around the road.
Proto bones or no bones.
Yes, exactly. Whole egg or no egg or half egg.
And I need to know.
Yeah.
Chase, you said you were a fan of the hard-boiled egg, quote, for a while. Was this like an everyday occurrence for an extended period of time?
There was when I was going to community college, this was a treat of mine. And I just really did not have a lot of time to be making breakfast. I would stack up my classes on Tuesday and Thursday. Those are the only days I had classes on. So I was there all day, but I also needed to wake up very early. And so I'd stop by Starbucks to get my hearty breakfast of egg. And so wait, what was the original question? I just started talking and didn't have an answer.
You said you did it for a while. Was it an everyday thing?
It was a Tuesday, Thursday kind of thing. Cause that's when I was going to school.
Got it.
This may also paint this as definitely the worst thing. I didn't get coffee. I wasn't drinking coffee.
I was going to add. It was just the egg.
It was just the egg.
Just
Wow.
the egg.
Wow.
I hate to. Sorry, can you say your thing?
I was just going to ask, no
The
seasoning.
reporter just screaming, sir, please.
Mr. Allhart.
No seasoning, no salt, no.
Don't need it. Yeah, it's delicious. I'm a big fan of the flavor of an egg, to be honest.
I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
I also love an egg.
I actually am not a huge fan of. I think it's a flavor and texture thing. I like eggs, but it's like in circumstances, not just egg.
Not just egg.
David, did you ever witness this?
I did not. This was a time when Chase and I were not living in the same city when he was going to community college. But my question for you, Chase, is what do you think the baristas thought of this? Like, was there one poor barista who was always scheduled at this time? It's just like, oh, here's the weird egg guy again. He's just going to order one egg and leave.
The egg guy.
No coffee.
Yeah. I don't know. I think so. I think by this point I had grown up enough to know that this was not normal behavior. I was talking to you guys yesterday that unfortunately the Subway person knew me And I always thought that because she was smirking that like maybe there was some connection between the two of us. But of course she was smirking because it's Turkey Man who's arrived at her store about to order 2 whole feet of Subway. Right. But I think that there were definitely some people who were working at Starbucks at the time who would, see me and understand my egg-based experience that I was about to endeavor in. But
they had the egg ready for you.
Here, sir, here's your one.
Your egg.
Yeah, you just drive by at full speed and they would just like
just hurl an egg in my window.
Yeah.
I drive by mouth open, just like, come on, you guys.
Just keep my card on file. Just charge me. It's fine.
Add it to the egg tab. I'll be back on Friday to pay for it.
Oh my God. And now I just tried to Google the packaging for this single egg. Was it like a sealed, like plastic bag of single? Incredible. My real question that I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Why not just buy a dozen eggs and hard boil them yourself?
This is a very good question. A very good question. And one that I learned the answer to, that like I could just hard boil 12 eggs at once.
Yeah.
And like that's a fair thing to do. I think the best answer to that is that I was kind of dumb and like didn't think that far ahead and was like, I'm just going to get my special little morning treat egg as like a way to, treat yourself. Again, at the time I was working a part-time job at Chevy. So like the amount of treats that I was able to get for myself was pretty slim. And so the morning egg was one of the things that I was looking forward to.
Yeah. And I mean, you were early college age. So, see, if I'm just speaking for myself, a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So,
no, same. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel good about the construction of this list. David, what do you think? What do you think? Being witness to some of these crimes, do you think this is a proper ranking? I
mean, I'd say this is fair. I don't know if this is all the crimes that have ever been committed. There are some other deep things in there. I mean, the Spaghetti-O contingency needs to have their time in the sun.
Did you say Spaghetti-O?
So there are other things to be discussed, but for these 5, I'd say this is a fair ranking for them all.
We're gonna have to have you on again, so just to talk about the food crimes.
David, do you remember Sprite Mountain? Do you remember anything about that?
Sprite Mountain. Was it a big pile of Sprite cans?
Yes, it was. I was just trying to make sure that wasn't something I dreamt.
No, I don't know if you just incepted it into my mind, but you unearthed something. You unlocked a memory within me when you said Sprite Mountain, and there was only one option of what it could be, which was a giant pile of Sprite cans.
Stacked up like a pyramid.
Stacked up like a pyramid.
God.
We'll save that one for next episode, though.
Okay, yeah. I think maybe because I think we could we're already just about a half hour deep, and I think we could probably.
This is going to take over the whole episode.
We could probably go on forever, yeah. So I think maybe it is time now to move on to a video game.
Sure.
Yes. So I was a big fan of Resident Evil 7. I was not super into the original Resident Evils. I didn't have a PlayStation growing up. I was a Sega Genesis kid, and then I was an N64 kid. I didn't get my first PlayStation until my now brother-in-law got his PS4 and didn't want his PS3 anymore and said, hey, do you want this? I said, yeah, sure. So I was really late to the party, more or less. And then Resident Evil never really grabbed me as a series until Biohazard, because it looked completely different from any other Resident Evil that I had encountered in my life. So I played it, loved it. And then when Village came out, Resident Evil 8 Village, because that's how they stylized the title for some reason, I was extremely into it and then didn't buy it because I didn't have the money for it. So a friend bought it for me for my birthday last year, and then I finally played it this past week. And I liked the game. I mean, I had a good time with it. It took me 10 and a half hours to beat. Love a short game. And recently on Podtimism, Chase, you have just played every Resident Evil, correct?
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them. Yeah. Where does 8 stack up for you in this series, I guess?
Really high, if not probably the best of them. I heard Chris Plant say that either, I don't know where, but somewhere he was like, I think Resident Evil 8 is like the best of the Resident Evils. And I was like, is that true? There's no way that seems hyperbolic, but I think he's totally right. Like I played the remake of 1, the remake of 2 and 3. I sort of dipped into the originals for 2 and 3 just to kind of see like what was going on there and how they compare. Played through 4, didn't play through 5 because it's a nightmare, and then played through some of 6. That was sort of the arc. And like there's so many things with Resident Evil, but I think something that I really appreciate about these games is that most of them are incredibly tonally consistent with one another, that like the first third of the game is just sort of a spooky little jaunt through a place that is like terrifying and scary and you don't know what's going on. And then towards the middle, you're feeling a little bit stronger. And then towards the end of the game, it turns into this like metallic, like twisted science sort of horror game. Yeah. Which I enjoy all of those. I think they are all on this sliding scale of like action versus like this more like puzzle box style of game. Like the remake of 1 and the original 2 and 3s were like this, where you'll wander through this like maze, essentially this map of like locked doors and puzzles and just all sorts of like stuff it ends up feeling like this like knotted thing that you're untying by just like wandering through the game, which is really fun. Like I really like that approach to the game, whereas like something like 4 or 6 is more just like you're wandering down a hallway with zombies in it, and like there's some like backtracking and like puzzle solving, but for the most part it's like it's more focused on the action of the game. Yeah. And like 4 did it in a way, I think it was mostly just like a watershed moment for like, hey, we're doing third person shooter games now, and that's like a very big deal and something that's new and refreshing. 6 sort of like jumped the shark, and I was talking about this on Podtimism, but like I don't blame them for wanting to go towards the action side of this series. Because like 4 was very focused on action, and a lot of people said like this is their favorite one, right? Like 4 was either their introduction to the series, or if they had played it for a while, they were really into it. And so I'm not surprised that they did that, but 6 really was like, this doesn't feel like the same game anymore. And not necessarily in a bad way. It's not a terrible game. It just like, it didn't hold the same sort of DNA. And so like 7 very much like reinvented itself. And I think 8 is the extension of that, where they said, hey, we did some cool stuff in 7 and we would like to apply that, but bring it into the Resident Evil sort of like DNA. And so like, you know, the first area really reminds me of Resident Evil 4, right? Where like, there's all the like lichens and werewolves that are chasing
You're in a village.
You. Yeah, you're literally in a village. Yeah, exactly. And not to mention all the places that you end up going start to feel like these references to either other Resident Evil games or other horror games. Like the first like castle area with the like vampire women feels very like previous Resident Evil games with like this gothic castle that you're like wandering through. The second area is horrifying and feels very much like PT or like Amnesia or something like that, where your weapons are stripped away and you're mostly just trying to not get killed by this like horrifying creature that is chasing you around. Yeah. The third area very much reminds me of Resident Evil 4 with like this kind of just like icky, gross, nasty fish stuff that you have to like fight. And then the fourth one just kind of feels like a lot of other Resident Evil endings, where it's like this industrial sort of area. So I really like this game. I think it is a very good representation of the series and like what makes every one of those games special, just done to the nth degree. And also for that reason, like I'm so interested in what they do next, because I have no idea where you go from here.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Have you touched the DLC at all? Because the DLC just came out, I think last week.
No, so I played through the game again just when you had mentioned like, hey, I might talk about this. And so I like played through the whole thing, got through it real quick, but didn't really work on the DLC because like I had heard from a lot of people that it wasn't really like up to the standards that they were hoping for.
Interesting.
That it was kind of just like a rehash of what was going on in the original. So I don't know. I don't know if that's like what they're going to do in the future, or if it was just like, let's experiment with this thing, you know?
Yeah, I think coming into 8 with 7 being the only other one I had played, I still feel like I picked up on a lot of the stuff you're talking about, of it referencing previous Resident Evils. But I mean, the thing that really stood out to me more so was its utilization of different genres of horror, which it sounds like is basically what the Resident Evil games have been doing. But like the whole first area, you're in the castle, it's vampires, you're doing the vampire thing. It's very gothic. It's very, vampire, that whole thing. The second area is, like you said, Amnesia. They strip everything away from you. That's just a straight up horror game.
Yeah.
The third area is an action game, and then the fourth area is interesting because I think the fourth area is a little long-winded.
It does go on for a while, yeah.
It goes on for a while. It asks you to do a lot of backtracking that you don't necessarily have to do, but if you want like the full experience, quote unquote, you're traveling up and down the elevator a bit and traveling through hallways that you've already walked through, but now there's a bunch of big guys in them, which is struck me as a very Resident Evil thing, but you know, it's also just very like Frankenstein fiction. You know, it's literally a guy creating these mashups of creatures in order to make like the strongest being or whatever. And then where the game ends up just being like, yeah, it's just you and this lady, and you just have to shoot her until she is done. Like, there's no like strategy or horror or anything in that. It is just like it's basically the exact same arc that 7 followed, where at the end you are just holding down the shoot button and pointing it at the big scary monster. That is at this point, like you said, jumped the shark. And has just basically become this like absurd, like what is the biggest, wildest thing we could do with this thing that used to be a person? And then you just let you shoot it a whole bunch, which I liked, which I enjoyed.
It's very consistent with the endings of the other games too. They're almost all of them are like, here's a big scary guy that you have to fight now. Which, like I could take it or leave it. Like I wouldn't call that like a bad part of the game. It does feel very ridiculous.
Yes.
And like something that I actually do like about that approach is that the Resident Evil games do this really cool magic trick where once you have finished, they'll usually give you like a rank or something like that of like, here's how fast you did it. Here's how many saves you used or whatever. And like, it's really cool to have this kind of smooth transition from a very scary beginning of the game, which like, you know, no qualms with that. At the end, it's totally ridiculous and over the top. And immediately after it's done, it's like, hey, do you want to try for a better score or something like that? And having the tone be so over the top and like gamey, for lack of a better word, like it allows you to go back and play through the game again, just viewing it as like a mechanical experience rather than like a horror experience, which some of those games do really well, right? Like I think I just played 3, the remake, and that one's really fun. It's really short, and so you can feasibly beat it in like 2 hours or something like that. So once you finish it, you can just immediately go back through and play it. I think 4 did the same thing where like I just remember playing that game a lot, like over and over and over again to get like a better time or a better score or not save or something like that so you can unlock cooler stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the achievements or one of the challenges that you can get points for in 8 is like beat the game in 3 hours or something. It's like something crazy like that.
It seems ridiculous. Like how
seems ridiculous, but like thinking about it, it's like if I only do the stuff I have to do and I know exactly where I need to go, I can avoid a lot of like shooting and stuff by just running past things because I know where my final destination is. And then I just have to make it to the end where I just hold the shoot button down and not die. Like it definitely seems doable, and it's really, I think it is kind of a magic trick that these games pull where, like you said, the end of the game is so ridiculous and over the top that they just carry that momentum back around to the beginning. And, you know, the nature of horror in general is there is horror to be found in the unknown, right? So if you know everything, the game is no longer scary. It is just like, it just exists, and you now exist in it with a gun that has unlimited ammo.
Or an actual lightsaber that you can
Or an actual lightsaber. Which I think is awesome. I think it's a great feature. Yeah, Kim, if you have enough, I don't even remember what the achievement is, but if you have enough points or whatever, you just get a lightsaber. You can just buy a lightsaber. Yeah. I think it's like a Darth Maul lightsaber too, right?
It is a
double-sided lightsaber. Just
rad.
Bonkers. Yeah. David, I mean, you said you've played the previous games, some previous games in the series. Is this, are you feeling kind of like on the same page with all this stuff? Like, do you feel this way about the earlier games as well?
I do. Definitely Resident Evil 4 was the one I played the most growing up, and I played a little bit of 7, played a little bit of 5, but that one was not good, so I kind of stopped playing that one pretty quick. Or at least I didn't care for it at the very least. So yeah, it's an interesting process with these games. The time trial stuff has never been it for me personally. I know that's something that Chase personally loves, of just seeing, can I just dominate this game right now?
Yeah.
But for me, it's I'm really there for the survival horror aspect of it. And once I'm done with that, and I'm just totally kind of out with it. Cause like you said, once you like the horror is what's the unknown, right? More than anything else. And once you know what's there, it's not as scary. But yeah, it is an interesting series in that it does have this formula that kind of goes through all of them, where it's scary, then kind of gets progressively more action-y by the end, which is kind of cathartic in a way, I think, as starting to give you power as the player. When you first start, it's like, I don't know what's happening. I don't even know how to control the game, right? Especially in the first ones with the tank controls, like it's disorienting and it's trying to purposely be that way. Whereas by the end, it's you feel empowered, like you have agency, which I think is part of what makes those games fun for some folks, is that you feel like you are improving, getting better, right? And can actually fight these things that scared you in the beginning.
I totally feel that, saying that by the end of the game you have agency. I 100% feel that, because when I started playing this game last week, I started it and I was like, oh man, I actually don't know if I have this in me. Like, I don't know if I was just in the mood for like a spooky time when I was playing 7 and I was like having fun. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be fun, like a fun scary, or if this is just going to be too scary for me. But then, the longer I played it and the more of a grasp I got on the mechanics and what is actually going on, 100% I felt like, oh, well, this is like my world. You're just being a zombie in it,
I have power over you now. That's definitely, I think, one of the great things about scary games in general, is it gives you that, like, lets you face your fears in kind of a safe environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a great time with this game. I really loved it. I really loved 7, and I really loved this one as well. I think 7 is still above this one for me. I really enjoyed the absurdity of 7.
It's pretty wild. Yeah.
It gets pretty wild, like out of nowhere, basically. And I will say I really enjoyed both of these games do a similar thing where like the 4th act twist or whatever is like, now you're playing as someone else. I really enjoyed that more in 7 than I did in 8. I just felt like it was more cathartic, I think, in 7, because it was used more as like a storytelling device, whereas the end of 8, you have to do a thing in order to play as a different person, and then somebody just spouts a bunch of facts at you and is like, here is what the actual deal is, instead of you kind of figuring it out on your own by playing this, like prequel portion, quote unquote, of the game. But
it's not the whole story of 8, but I think a lot of the story of 8 suffers from the same thing, or the like that trope of, if these people were just honest with each other, the story would be different.
Yes.
Not emotionally honest, just literally what is going on here.
Right. There's so many times where it's where Ethan, the protagonist, is like, what's happening? And the other person is like, get out of here. It's like, that is not an answer.
If you just answered, I think it would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I help? And then maybe you'd say no, but like, it wouldn't
at least
be
give them the choice,
Yeah, like the game frames this person as like one of the antagonists for a lot of the game. Then it's like, they do like a bro handshake at some point, and then it's all fine.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's very bizarre. Not bad, because like the game is cheesy inherently.
100%.
But it fits within the whole sort of like arc, I guess. It's just a bizarre storytelling device.
Yeah, I had said in our group message that this game goes full Evil Dead toward the end, in levels of absurdity. And then looking at it in retrospect, like Ethan, the protagonist, the person you're playing as, is extremely Ash Williams, where the entire time something crazy happens and he's just like, I hope my arm's okay. Like, he won't address the wild thing that just happened. He's just like, oh man, I need to tie my shoe or something. It's just like, he always focuses on the most mundane part of the wild thing he had just witnessed. It's just like, it's so good.
After the first boss, after you're like grappling with this like dragon monster, you fall through a clock tower to the bottom, and she's like, you get up, she dies in like this horrible manner. And Ethan stands up and is like,
you're the one who's cursed.
And then like walks away. Like, what sort of response is that, dude?
Yeah, it's wild. Ethan Winters is a great protagonist. But yeah, I would recommend this game. I don't have much else to say about it. So we could probably move on now from a game and series that has well paced and reasonably timed length games to a franchise that has games that are way too long and then ask you to play it 3 more times to get the whole story. We're going to talk about Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes now.
Mm-hmm.
What did we think of that segue? Kim, would you think that segue was good?
Oh, yeah, it was really great. Yeah, I mean, just to kick off this conversation, we had Chase on what was, I guess, the first episode of Synchronous, a video game Zeitgeist show, to talk about Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. And at the time we were all really hot on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I still am. I still enjoyed of what I've played, like the story. I think I'm on like chapter 9, which I understand is like right before shit really hits the fan. Mm-hmm. But I fell off of it for a while, and then I tried to pick it back up this week and realized why I had fallen off, which was just that it's so much game that it started overwhelming me. Like everything you do, there's like, all the battles, and then you're constantly getting activity points and taking your like fellow war children out on dates and like excursions or whatever, expeditions. They're dates.
It's a date. Yeah.
They're dates. And you can get an A in dating, and I want the A. So I was devoting a lot of energy into that. And at some point it was just like, this is too much. And then I was like, what if I just like mainlined it and just like kind of skipped the side content, which I tried to do. And then another game ended up taking up my energy this week, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I want to finish it at some point because I really was loving the story for all the reasons that we talked about previously, in terms of it just like getting way more into the politics side of the story of Three Houses, and giving us this fun like what if scenario. So yeah, I would like to see that through. I've heard mixed things about the ending, so I'm not like holding my breath, but how far did you guys end up getting? You finished it, right, Chase?
I did. I beat the Golden Deer route. I didn't play the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm only on like chapter 6 or 7, something like that. So I'm still pretty early on.
What did you think, Chase, finishing up the...
I mixed. I am not opposed to real mechanically dense games. If they do like a good job of tutorializing it, which like to me it felt like they did. I didn't really feel overwhelmed, but I also did not have the drive like to get A's on all the dates and stuff. I think I stopped doing those at a certain point because I was like, meh.
Chase is also a famous support skipper.
Yes. Another game crime. So I stopped really doing those. I did watch the supports, and those, like you were saying, I think the consistency of the writing is throughout. Like it's pretty well done. Like most of the time, the people who worked on this definitely understood what was cool about Three Houses and like how to write those characters in a way that felt earnest to the original writings. Like it didn't feel like they're like, and now this guy has like space boots and he can jump really high and that's his new thing. Like it's very it felt consistent. The ending it goes so wildly anime towards the end of like just stuff goes so haywire and crazy and like sort of ditches a lot of the stuff that I was really into. Like up till like chapter like 14 or so, things are still like, getting all like political and stuff like that. Claude has to do a lot of pretty wild stuff in his story in Golden Deer, and I really liked what it was doing. I think that in Three Houses, the Golden Deer are very much presented as like almost the blameless house. Like they're like, we're all cool and some of us are hot and nobody has any problems because we're all pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so like it was nice to see a version of Claude where he is trying to be a little bit more of a shrewd politician, because like I think that's still within his character. He just like opted to do it a different way in Three Houses, whereas this one he feels very like, I have to do it this way because this is the way that's going to like get things done the best. And so I appreciated that characterization of him and kind of the way that story went. But at the same time, it felt like when they got to the 14th or 15th chapter, it was like, okay, now I'm all better because I had a cool conversation. And now we got to go fight the anime villain.
Sure.
And like, it's just very weird.
That sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah. Honestly, it's in keeping with the other, with Three Houses. And so I wouldn't say this is a bad game. And like, I wouldn't say it ends poorly, but with what they were setting up, I was expecting like a very complicated and satisfying political ending rather than like, here's the god that you have to fight now.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like just a much stronger start than end.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think Three Houses like is more consistent in that way, and like almost has the inverse, where in the beginning it's pretty simple, and over the course of the game it's like, oh, there's a lot going on here, where this game is like hitting you with political drama almost immediately, which was very enticing for someone who liked that in the other game. But
yeah,
it just kind of like eventually stops being quite as interested in that and is like, I think we need to end this video game now. And then you get like a cool letter at the end of it, and that's kind of like the end of the game.
Like a letter grade, or like a
like somebody
parcel?
writes you a letter, and like
Cool.
that's sort of the end. You also don't get to like marry anybody, as far as I know.
yeah. I saw that there's no like paired endings or anything.
Nah.
That's a bummer. What am I doing all this dating for?
I know. Yeah. Everybody should kiss. Yeah. That's what I would like.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm only on chapter 6 or 7, but I just did, or I just got like a scene of Claude talking with Judith about the Bridge of Murden and how he had a plan to do whatever, and it didn't go the way he thought it would go, which is kind of inklings of what I've heard you, Chase, say about kind of where the Golden Deer route goes, of Claude kind of realizing he isn't really as in control of stuff as he is. But it is a bummer because like I picked this game up when it came out in June,
something like that,
and then picked it back up again this week just to play it a bit before the episode. And I mean, talk about mechanically dense. I picked it up, I went into a battle, I was like, I do not remember what any of these buttons do, but I figured it out. But like something that I immediately like fell back into was like, oh man, I love the writing in this game. Like I think the characters talk like people and they act like humans in situations would act, and I'm really, really into that. Like even Hubert, who in Three Houses is like just a villain who like likes to kill people and do stuff, like is kind of pragmatic in Three Hopes, which is a wild thing that we never ever see until like maybe his final scene with Ferdinand in Three Houses, you know, talking about stuff like, or at the end of the Golden Deer route in Three Houses, when you realize that he has left a letter of like, just in case we lose, here's what we need to do. It's just very interesting and very good. Like it's a breath of fresh air, I think, in terms of writing. Not to say the writing in Three Houses is bad, but it's like kind of hit and miss. But every time I got a scene or, you know, a support scene, I was like, man, this is like great. I love this. This is wonderful. So kind of to hear that it goes to the anime route at the end, not to say that there's anything bad about going to the anime route, because I do love an anime ass ending. But like Kim said, like I was really into the writing and stuff and the political things that were going on in this.
They were like so well thought out.
So well thought out. So to hear it ends with just like, oh, we're going to kill God again. It's just like, oh, okay. I mean, I get it, but also fine. Like
it is like inconsistent with where it felt like the game was going to go, I guess.
Exactly.
The biggest issue. Like I'm also totally cool with an anime ending, but like have an anime beginning too, if you're going to do that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Don't rug pull me at the end where you're like, hey, just kidding. It's God again. Knock, knock. It's me, God.
Time to fight.
When will he learn his lesson?
I sort of like am eternally grateful for Three Houses being this like watershed moment for the series, because obviously it got a bunch of people who were not into Fire Emblem into Fire Emblem, and was doing a lot of stuff that was like really new and interesting. But it's sort of a bummer because like I wish I could say like, oh well, you know, Three Hopes wasn't it, but like you can go back and play, you know, Fire Emblem on GBA, and like listen, you can. I like that game a lot, but it doesn't have the same level of writing or characterization that these ones do. You know, it's a much more mechanical experience, which is a shame because like I said, I have enjoyed these games for a long time for their mechanical thing. And so the writing and the characters were this very cool little spice that they put on it in this game. But it's, I wish there was more. I want more Fire Emblem, please.
Yeah. Yeah. David, you've only played earlier games in the franchise, right?
Yeah, I played Awakening. That was the one that I really played on the was that the 3DS, or was it just the DS?
So, yeah.
Yes.
3DS, yeah. Yeah, I've always will play these types of games, and I'll always kind of peter out maybe halfway through. They're usually too long for me. I enjoy them, but
I get that.
It doesn't keep me going. And just listening to y'all talk about this game, there's part of me that just wishes some of these longer RPGs would have and just an anime just for the story and the characters. Just so I could watch that like this, or like a Persona 5, something like that, where I just really enjoy the world and the people more than I actually enjoy like sitting down and playing the game. That's just my preference personally, of course. But yeah, I think that'll be more my jam for these type of things.
Yeah. Were you surprised, like when you started hearing people talk about like Three Houses and stuff, having Awakening been the game you played? Were you surprised when people were like, I love this character and their arc and stuff? Was that like, because I've heard that the earlier games before Three Houses are just kind of like, here is Knight, and Knight likes swords, and that is like the whole thing that Knight goes through the whole game.
I think Awakening was when they really first started trying to make it a little bit more interesting, especially with, I think, the character of Lucina, who is this time traveling princess, right? So I think that's when they really started to make this more of a story character experience, and I think it's really only improved from there, from what I've heard. But yeah, when people get really into the nitty gritty of this is my character, this is the arc I like, and just having so many different paths and stories that they can tell within these games of, having multiple threads that you can choose. It seems a little overwhelming sometimes just to hear people talk about it, but it seems also pretty interesting and fun. Yeah,
it's definitely an experience. I don't know whether I prefer having like compelling characters that like you get bits of story that are really good over a 90-hour game, or really bland characters that you're really only playing the game for like the tactical portion of it, and then maybe some of the conversations over 90 hours. I'm really not sure which I would prefer. And part of me, I mean, granted, I've only played Three Houses and Three Hopes. Part of me feels like I want less interesting characters if we're going to be spending 90 hours like throwing them at bad guys. You know what I mean?
I do not care about the tactics. I don't want to say at all. But very much. Just the characters, please, for me. Just a visual novel, actually. Would be fine.
If you took just the character moments and like put it into a visual novel, that's like maybe 3 hours, maybe.
And it's a great 3 hours.
And it's a good 3 hours. I think.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
I'm so interested to see if the next Fire Emblem learns any of the lessons from Three Hopes.
I'm so curious.
I have no idea if it will. I heard that like there was some thing about like this game has been in development at the same time that like Three Hopes was, or Three Houses. And so I wonder if like they will carry any of that forward, or if like, it was like quote unquote too late to do that or whatever. Because I would be shocked if they were like, okay, that was a cool game that sold like the best we've ever done. Let's go back to the stuff we were doing before. I think that's probably a good idea. But I don't know. I hope it's good. I mostly just want the people who are like obsessed with Three Houses to get more of that.
Yeah.
Like, please stay playing video games, everybody. They're very cool and they're for everybody.
Yeah.
And so like, I want more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was excited for Fire Emblem Engage, the next game. And I'm feeling a little more cautious the more we see from it. I don't know. We'll see. This is not the only reason, but probably one of the big reasons. The character designs are just rancid to me.
They are wild.
I like, no offense to anybody who likes it. I just don't. So we'll see. I'm gonna wait and see what people say about that game before I run out and buy it. But
I'm really ready to be wrong about it. I would really love for people to just say, look, this is a hard game to preview and it's just as incredible in Three Houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's possible, right? Like, I don't think I would have known that Three Houses was as good as it was until I like really got in there. Like a preview of that game does not do it justice. It's like, look at Claude putting his hand forward and saying like, let's go fight.
I mean, I heard about it for years before actually picking it up. So.
Right. We literally started a podcast in order to pick it up. It's like,
that's true.
And here we all are.
Yeah.
Need a reason to play this game. Let's start a podcast.
Honestly, David, that is the reason
like
this
that.
show exists. Yeah.
Asynchronous origin story.
Yes. Jason, David, what have you guys been? What have you been playing? Anything you want to talk about today on the show?
Sure. Dave, do you want to go first?
I haven't been playing too much because I've been preoccupied with studying for this big test that I have coming up. But the one thing I have been playing a lot recently is Chorus, which is it's on Game Pass. It's on Xbox. Mm-hmm. This is the game that I'm
so interested in this.
This is the game that I completely had no idea even existed before just seeing on a random Reddit thread, hey, if you liked Crimson Skies, High Road to Revenge, you should play Chorus. It's kind of similar. And it was a great recommendation from whoever on Reddit. I don't know your username, but thank you.
Thanks, Reddit.
It's a very interesting game. It's a spaceship game, space fighting, dogfighting game. But it also has this element of like psionic telepathic powers as well. So it's kind of like if you took Rogue Squadron and Control and mixed them together, and it gives you this really interesting combination of things you can do in this spaceship. So yeah, it's a joy to play so far. I'm really enjoying it.
I remember coming across this. I think it was on Game Pass. I saw like it was in the coming soon or whatever, and so I watched the trailer and I was like, "Wow, this seems wild." I have no idea what the game part of this looks like, because it's just like what I assume is like the opening cutscene or whatever, where you see the protagonist, I guess, who is this kind of angry-looking woman on the front of this picture that I'm looking at.
She's got big-time Jack vibes from Mass Effect.
Big Jack vibes. Yes.
Big Jack vibes.
100%. Yes, there it is. But yeah, I was like, I don't know what this game is. But to hear this game described as a dog fighter in the vein of Rogue Squadron and Control is really compelling.
It's pretty cool. There's deep lore in this game too. Which is great.
Deep lore.
If you give me like a big old helping of lore on any game, I am there for it. I will get lost reading these tiny text bubbles on my TV from across the room and needing glasses. But it's worth it for me.
David, you're like command over lore is so wild to me. Like your recall is just absurd. Like you'll drop knowledge from something you learned like 20 years ago about a game that I don't even remember. So like I'm glad that it's satisfying your lore, your drive to consume.
It was all started with history class back in high school. Like I just got I thought I was into history, but I'm just into lore, really.
What is history if not human lore?
Old secrets. Wow. But this game is great. The story is interesting so far. Essentially, this isn't a spoiler because it's right in the very beginning of the game, but you are essentially a member of a cult, and you're like the top fighter pilot in this cult that is aggressively trying to expand their influence over the rest of the galaxy, the universe, what have you.
Whoa.
And then you are, since you're this psionic telepath, crazy powerful person, you end up destroying a whole planet. You destroy a whole planet, as this woman does.
Hell yeah.
From her spaceship, and she's just like
a one-woman Death Star.
It's intense.
That's the dream.
that's the dream. Just blow up a planet from your spaceship.
Holy shit.
But yeah, and then she has this huge amount of remorse. She starts to become disillusioned with the prophet, who is the leader of this cult, and then she starts to go and live off the land, and essentially being a scavenger and using her special psionic powers to really find things that other people can't find. So she's like the best scavenger in this place. And the game does also something interesting gameplay wise, in that it starts you off in a spaceship that you think is really cool at first. It works well, it flies good, it's pretty fast, but there is definitely parts when you're doing the dogfighting where you really have to finagle it to do what you want. To turn around quickly, to get behind people, to actually, be effective. And then once you start getting used to doing that with this spaceship it starts you off with, it gives you the new hotness. It gives you the Ferrari of spaceships, which is like your old spaceship that you hid on this planet. And you realize you were just driving around a Toyota Camry the whole time. And once you start getting into this guy, because it lets you drift as well. So now it starts being this really interesting, almost Mario Kart-esque drifting ability in this game, but not in the vein of a racing game where you have, 4 wheels, 4 points of contact on the ground and gravity affecting you. Because when you activate the drift in this one, your vector that you're on when you activate the drift continues going, but then you just rotate the ship around.
Oh my God.
So that's so wild.
It takes a while to get used to, and it's really confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fun. It's really cool.
David, you said drift vectors, and I think that unlocked a part of my brain. And I'm watching some gameplay right now, and it seems really like active and frenetic and like really something that I'm super into. I played a little bit of Elite Dangerous, which is a space flight sim. And there is like, you can do kind of whatever you want in that game in terms of like, if you have a spaceship, anything you could do with a spaceship, you can do in that game. You can become a trader, you can become a, whatever. But one of the things you can do is become basically a pirate, and you can just go around and start dogfights with people, which is what I started doing. And it was one of my favorite things in that game, and watching the gameplay and hearing you describe like the vibes of the dogfighting and stuff really seems super up my alley.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. There's a lot of different abilities to unlock. Right now, the one I just unlocked is like a teleportation. You can teleport your ship to certain places to get behind people.
God. That's so cool.
Which is pretty cool. It's certified cool. And once you get this drifting ability in the spaceship, you're finally able to play the game that they want you to play from the beginning, right? Because you realize that this Toyota Camry spaceship that they gave you was just a really nice way, like training wheels, to just get used to the basics of controlling it. And then they give you this like Tokyo Drift beast of a machine, and then you just start going around doing U-turns, and it does the really nice thing where if you go and you drift and you turn the opposite direction to go forward again, it slows down and then just shoots you off real quick.
Oh my God.
It feels really good. I'm curious to see where this goes and how it develops from here with different abilities. But so far, I'm way into this game. I'm really enjoying it so far.
It sounds extremely cool from your description.
I don't want to hype it up too much, but I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah.
The ship is sentient too, right?
Yes, it's an AI ship.
Oh,
so it's like Knight Rider,
an ED
but
situation.
Yeah. His name is Forsaken, and he goes by Forza.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
Wait, literally?
Which is, yes, literally, which is pretty cool.
That's hilarious.
I feel like most of me listening to you talk about this game is just in my head going,
"It's fucking sick, dude. That's cool as shit, man."
100%.
It's cool in a very melodramatic kind of way.
yeah.
And the main character, Nara, she's interesting too, but she also has this dual dialogue going on where she talks to people, but then has this, like her inner monologue, you can hear her in her brain. But when she's always talking to herself internally, it always comes out like a whisper like this. That's kind of creepy, which is off-putting at first, but you get used to it after a while. Which is probably one of the parts of the game that takes the most getting used to, honestly, even with everything else going on, especially if you're wearing headphones, because then it just feels like she's whispering in your ear.
Oh, man.
When you said she talks to herself, I was imagining kind of like a Fleabag situation where she just turns to the camera.
That would be much more entertaining. I would love that.
Yeah, when are we going to get Fleabag the video game? That's what I want to know.
I would play that video game.
I would play the hell out of that. Well, just that's another thing that maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
One day. Come on, Phoebe, make it.
Yeah. Now, Kim, where do you stand on like space combat games? Because I know I tried to get you to get into Elite Dangerous a little bit, and you were immediately kind of off put, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I come to think of it, I'm trying to think of any game where I have had to control a spaceship, aside from zooming the Normandy around the galaxy map in Mass Effect, of course. Any game that I have actually managed to stick with. And I don't know what it is. I just can't fly a spaceship, I think. Elite Dangerous, it was too complicated. Outer Wilds, too complicated. I'm not good at spaceships, unfortunately. But this sounds like the game, like as David was describing it, I was like, I would love to watch someone stream this, because I don't think I could play it, but I would love to watch somebody stream it. It sounds very fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. I think I still have a Game Pass subscription. I should know that.
It's $16, Kim. That's not nothing.
I know. Well, because I always think I should cancel that, and then I don't know if I ever do it. Look into that.
Bill Gates is like, thanks for the $15.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm really adding to his bottom line, which doesn't feel good.
I'm going to download this game today, David. I will be talking about this on next episode.
Yeah, I think
Please,
I will be as well.
because I definitely went down the rabbit hole the first night that I got it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a study break. I'll do it for like an hour or two. And then it was maybe like 4 or 5 hours later and I'm just zipping around. It was pretty good. It really hooked me.
Nice.
I feel like space dogfighting games so rarely deliver in the way that I want them to.
Yeah.
I also tried to play Elite Dangerous and it was so complicated and I got so overwhelmed. I felt like I was actually trying to fly a spaceship and just could not do it.
You are, Chase. It's the sim part of the sim game. It's so
I just
good.
couldn't do it. Yeah.
That's what I love so
So
much
much.
about that game. But anyway.
Yeah, this is not a sim.
No, it looks very arcadey, yeah, which like I'm into. Definitely liked the Rogue Squadron games, very into Star Fox, into like you said, Crimson Skies was like another flight sim or arcade flight game that like was just really good. I think the simpler the better, to be honest, for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Flight Sim stresses me out. I feel like I'm responsible for the plane.
I mean, in a sense, you are. That's
Good game.
great. I mean, Chase, what have you been playing?
I'm going to give you a menu and you can tell me which game you want me to talk about.
Garçon.
You can partake in either a delicious course of Horizon Forbidden West or on this episode of Synchronous, a video game zeitgeist show, I can talk about a game from 2000 that I really like. So whichever one you want.
I would love for you to talk about the game from 2000 because I still have to put more time into Forbidden West.
Sure. I have also been playing Megaman Legends too, everyone. Sorry for cursing your podcast to this now. This is a thing that I have been playing. This is a game that came out for PlayStation 1. It is the sequel to Mega Man Legends, of course. Everybody knows that. And I'm so into these games. I feel like they do. Let me back up. It's a game where you play as Mega Man and you are like a treasure hunter and you hang out with your best friend Roll and a little robot monkey named Data. And you're trying to like find treasure. And in the first one and this one too, there's like this undercurrent and at times just regular current of the implication that the world is like much older and is like you're sort of living in the post-apocalypse at this point. But the game is like so cheery and so bright that it really never dwells on that for too long. But like the world is like an ocean for some reason. And like there's little like blips of land and places where people live, but like there's not that many people. And like a lot of them are like maybe robots. And there's like a bunch of what they call reaver bots that live underground that like are crazed and, you know, don't work the way that the ones above ground do.
Sure.
And so like there's all these implications, sort of like Breath of the Wild or something like that, where like, what happened here, y'all? This is wild. But because it has this like very chipper veneer over it, I don't know, it's very comforting in a way that I really enjoy. The actual gameplay of it is that you are in the second one, Mega Man Legends 2, you're looking for these like keys to unlock the motherlode, the biggest treasure. And that's essentially like, you know, what the actual game objective is like, we're going to like just go look for these keys in different dungeons. And so you do that. And like, it's a third person, I guess shooting, cause you're shooting like a Mega Man Buster. It's for anybody who has not played this and is like used to third person shooting, it's going to feel pretty bad. Like it has like a Z targeting system, which is like from, you know, Ocarina of Time.
Right.
It doesn't always work super well. The way that you control like shifting is with the L1 and R1 buttons. So like if you're sitting here as Mega Man to look right, you have to hit R1 so he like turns.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
The right analog stick doesn't do that. So you kind of have to get used to like shifting in a different plane.
Oh no.
Curse control scheme.
It's challenging to control, and like genuinely, I don't know if I could say like definitely check this one out, because I could see somebody picking this up and be like, that was terrible. I hate playing this. It feels bad.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I love this stuff, and I'm already used to the control scheme. Not to mention, if you play it on the Steam Deck, then you can remap those controls to be something a little bit more appropriate. So
that was my question. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than playing or using the L1 and R1, you can just change it to the right analog stick. Map L1 and R1 to the left and right of the analog stick, and you're totally Gucci. So
boom, bam.
That's it's a much better experience there. Anyway, I love these games. I think tonally they're right up my alley. They do a good job of offering you like upgrades that feel significant for a PlayStation 1 game, like being able to do different stuff and like putting together like special weapons that like you have to go like find in these underground areas, and like you don't have to go get them. You can just not do that in the game. Like that all feels very satisfying and very cool. It feels similar to what I've heard like the Into the Aether dudes talk about with Dragon Quest, where like the game feels very comforting just to like exist in that world, and that feels very similar to me. Like the music is all very good. The environments are all very like bright and make me feel good to experience them.
Yeah.
We're recording this on daylight savings time, the villain of my life. And so like it's about to get very dark again in Seattle.
Yeah.
And so like whenever that rolls around, I'm just like, I think I'm going to pick up Megaman Legends and just like go live in this bright, sunny area for a little while.
Yeah.
Visit my friends.
The time has just hit 6:30 here on the East Coast, and it is pitch black outside.
Yep.
So it's an exciting times. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with the previous or any of the Mega Man games really, but I did watch the animes, like the original. I watched Mega Man X, I think was the other one, maybe Battle Network, but that's the game. Was that also the name of the anime? I don't know.
Who knows? There was a lot of them. There was like the one in the 90s that was just like a cartoon, I think, of the like vanilla Mega Man. I think they did make a Battle Network anime.
Yeah. But I'm looking here at some of the character designs from this game, and there is something just like immediately so recognizable, like, oh, this is a Mega Man character design that just feels like putting a blanket on. I'm looking at a character named Bola, who just has a sword and then some sort of kind of sharp boomerang thing. There's another guy named Glide who basically looks like Lorenz if you put him in a brown Mega Man suit. And then Glyde.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And then there's
He's
also
got the rose and everything.
He's got the rose and everything. Yeah, exactly. And then there's a guy named Claymore who is just this absolute unit of a robot, but also still immediately, like, if I saw this in the wild, I'd be like, oh yes, this is Mega Man.
Oh, I love Claymore.
Yeah, I do love Claymore.
Give Claymore a hug.
Yeah. But Chase, to hear you describe this game as like something that you use to get you out of your like darkness slump, I think just looking at it is immediately like,
makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's definitely one of these games that we talk about on Podtimism a lot of like, I recognize that there is like a lot of stuff that is probably pretty unpalatable to people who like, you know, may come to this for the first time, but man, it sure does have a lot of value for me outside of just like, I played this before, you know, it's not just like a nostalgia experience.
Yeah.
It's very much like I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the environments, and just like, I think it's a tone piece. I really like the tone of the game. David, did we talk about the tone zone for a while on Podtimism?
We did. Tone zone was a big thing.
I feel like that was an early episode title.
Oh,
it matters.
And I believe this it does matter. And I think this was brought up as a good tone zone video game.
Absolutely. It's just a happy tone. Just it besides just the gameplay itself and the story and anything, just the vibe, I guess you could say as well, is the tone zone.
I mean, even the little monkey guy, like I just sent a picture in our chat, like that's a cute little monkey.
It's a cute little guy.
That's nice. Makes me feel
and
nice.
He does a dance all the time. Whenever you see him, he's doing a little dance all the time. No matter what he's doing, he's always dancing.
Amazing. Wow.
Always be dancing.
Always be dancing.
ABD.
ABD. Always be dancing. I love that. Thank you for bringing that to the show today.
It's a video game.
It is a video game, and you have been playing it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you talking about it on our program. Kim.
Yeah.
There's a game that I know you've been playing.
Uh-huh.
And you've been sitting here listening to us talk about a franchise that you have not played, a franchise that you have played too much of, and then a space shooter that you're not into, and what honestly looks like a really charming Mega Man game. What's this game you've been playing?
I have been playing Horsetails Emerald Valley Ranch.
The crowd goes wild.
Yeah, I feel like I need some sort of like musical stinger there. Like,
Instead of people applauding, just a bunch of horses neighing. So some background about me is that I am a recovered horse girl. I loved horses as a kid. I rode horses as a kid. I collected those little plastic horses. Like, I was that girl for a really long time, probably shocking to no one. And I used to play the hell out of not Barbie Horse Adventures, but another computer game called Barbie Riding Club, and was just obsessed with it. And so I've always wanted, anytime there's a horse in a game, I'm really fucking excited about it. And I am not the only horse girl gamer. There was this woman named Alice. I don't know if it's Alice Rupert or Ruppert, but she started a site called The Main Quest to talk about horses in games, and actually became like the de facto horse game expert, such that she was brought on as a consultant for Horsetail's Emerald Valley Ranch, which is supposed to be the pinnacle of horse games. And I don't know if that's true because I haven't played a lot of horse games. Apparently there are a lot of terrible horse games, but this game is really fun so far. I haven't gotten too far into it just yet, but the premise is you are like a young person who comes to this island. I guess it's called Emerald Valley. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe it's not an island. It's a peninsula. I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention. I was just excited about horses. And it's sort of like a Stardew Valley-esque kind of thing where like your aunt has this estate that's supposed to be a ranch, but it's fallen into disrepair. There's a point. I know, Chase, you've been playing this game. Have you called Aunt Joe yet?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So you call Aunt Joe and she's like, hey, I'm on a yacht. I don't care about the estate. You fix it up. Which is so funny. There's a little bit, I want to say, I'm not judging Aunt Joe's lifestyle. I think it sounds really fun. And I don't think we have to judge Aunt Joe's lifestyle. This game kind of wants you to. But everyone you talk to is like, I don't like your Aunt Joe that much. She doesn't take care of the horses.
God.
But the idea is you're like rebuilding the ranch. You arrive via boat and are immediately met by this little like boy mare, little Lord Fauntleroy guy named Gabriel, who's wearing like shorts and like a red blazer and a top hat. And he's like, come on, let's get your horse. Like no explanation really at all. It turns out he is actually the mayor's son.
I thought you were going to say is a horse.
God, yeah, that would be a really cool
horse.
twist.
He's on a horse when it starts, so that would be very problematic.
It's a horse that rides horses.
Yeah. So you get to pick your horse. You can pick from 3 horses at the beginning. I chose Quagga because, like me, she likes being the center of attention and dislikes when people steal her food. So I just felt a real kinship with her. And then, yeah, like the horse riding feels great. There's crafting, which I haven't like gotten super into yet. There are races. There's horse breeding. I think you get a bunch of letters at the beginning from people who are like, hey, I have like, a stud for your mare. So if you want some genetic diversity, come get, which like everybody, the phrase genetic diversity comes up so often. And it's like, just like, this is a weird euphemism for horse semen. But it's, I'm still so early in it that I haven't like gotten to explore all those angles yet, but so far it's really nice. Like it looks really good. Like I think that this game, what I am finding is that it definitely looks like they were on a budget, but they spent that budget extremely carefully to, in terms of the things that they're invested in. Like I said, riding the horses feels incredible. And so it doesn't bother me so much that like the text boxes are a little like janky looking or, like they're clearly investing in certain aspects of the game feeling really good. And if that's, to the detriment of it looking like quite as polished in terms of like the UI or something like that, like I'm constantly finding myself like kind of impressed with how they allocated resources in this game when it was clearly like, this is not like a AAA game with an unlimited amount of money to make it look like so polished, but it looks really good for what it's doing. And I'm excited to kind of see how it shakes out as I'm continuing to enjoy, or like mine into the different kinds of mechanics that are in this game. I'm so excited to have a fun horse game. All I ever wanted was just like take Breath of the Wild and just isolate the horses in that and let me do horse stuff. That's what this game is, basically. I'm into it.
It sounds like a dream for you specifically.
For me specifically.
Wow.
Yes. It is very possible that the rest of the Synchronous episodes, when we talk about like, oh, what have you been playing? It's just going to be me updating everyone on Horse Tales. And maybe we can call it the Horse Girl Diaries or something. I don't know.
Well, no,
it's a name.
We stop doing bullshit. We start doing horse shit.
That's nice.
That's it.
Good.
That's it, good. AJ. Very
Got
good. I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down.
Crack the code.
Thanks. Thank you. Chase, what have you thought about Horse Tales?
I am also enjoying Horse Tales. I am not a horse girl. I am married to one, but I am not a horse girl.
Oh.
Nice.
She was just talking last night about her experiences at Rawhide Ranch when she was younger. So I am adjacent to horse enjoyment. Like just at the outset, I will say this game is definitely not built for me, but I am still enjoying like what it's doing. Like I've played a lot of games this year that are sort of similar to this. The most recent of which is my time at Sandrock. It was this kind of similar game where like you show up at a town and everybody is, a character and you need to go like talk to everybody and see what's going on and build your like place out a little bit. Similar to like Potion Permit where you show up and it's the same thing. There's a bunch of people in town. You got to like get to know them and like hang out, but it has horses, which is cool. Like you said, Kim, the horse riding feels great. Love the horse riding. It's very, very good. Feels, you got like a little horse stamina meter down there at the bottom and you can just really gallop away through the area. And at first I was like, man, this map is really big. Like there's a lot of space to go like riding. And I was like, I wish I could get to this place faster. But I was like, wait, no, I know why the game has made it big. It's because they want me to ride the fucking horse.
Right.
And so just like letting go a little bit of like, I need to finish my tasks to more of like, I'm just going to ride my horse Dancer for a while.
Beautiful name.
I named my character Chorse.
It's very
just
good.
so just so we're all sort of clear about who I'm inhabiting. And I did pick Dancer. Dancer likes dogs and does not like hissing noises, which like I can definitely appreciate.
Sure.
I did want to note that Dancer is definitely a golden deer. She very much reminds me of Hilda in that way. So felt pretty appropriate to put her into that house. So like all in all, I'm enjoying this. I think like the layer of jankiness is definitely there, and like it's not all the way like it's not to the point where I would be like, oh, it's unplayable. Nothing like that. But like like you were saying, it's definitely an indie game. There were they tried to make the horse riding feel good and the world be beautiful, and like the text boxes are that's fine. That's fine. If you're here for the horses, they got that right. So like that part of it is very cool.
Yeah.
Just in general, I tend to enjoy games that are telling like a pretty specific story. And so like when I was thinking about games that made me feel connected to my horse, I like Red Dead 2 comes to mind, where like that horse is, you can choose one and that's like a big part of it. And like there are story beats with the horse later. Ghost of Tsushima is like a big one.
Ooh.
Yeah. Good horses.
Shouts out to Nobu, my horse.
I was, I think my first playthrough was with Kage, Black Horse.
Yeah. Good as hell, those horses.
Yeah, those are good horses. I won't say anything more. Yeah. And so like, I was sort of coming into this hoping that like they would have a little bit of a similar story, and it sounds like the like bond that you're able to build between you and your horse is more of like, I have spent a lot of time with this horse, and like it's likes and dislikes rather than like it busted me out of a bad situation or something like that. Right. And there are interesting things going on with that, where like mechanically different horses are like good at different things and have, in terms of likes and dislikes, like there's also my horse Quagga really likes the forest, and so when we're riding in the forest, she rides faster. Like stuff like that, where like they are doing things like that, and it ties into the mechanics, and I'm like interested to see sort of how much control you have over that as you go. But yeah, it doesn't seem like this is not like a girl and her horse story. Like it's very much like at some point you're going to be breeding horses and you're going to have a lot of horses. And yeah, it's not like a one-on-one bond like with the horses in Red Dead or you can have more than one horse in Red Dead, but usually
too,
yeah.
Which like I don't hate that, right? Like it's just a different approach to storytelling where it's allowing you as the player to engage with the horse mechanically. Wow, that was a sentence. And like and so like it allows you to tell your own sort of story there. I think just like in general, I sort of bend towards like wanting somebody to tell me a story in a game, unless it's like really clear that the emergent story is going to be really cool, like something like Journey or something like that, where the story that's told there is incredibly personal and one that they have crafted so specifically for you and like one other person that you will never talk to, like that sort of stuff is like really incredible and like kind of a magic trick that they pull off there. Yeah. So yeah, I think like I would prefer the Hidalgo movie tie-in horse story rather than the emergent horse story.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the like horse industry. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. They're setting up. I can't tell if they're setting up story or if they're just setting up characters, because there's like sort of like a rival family of horse people, the Felix family.
Yep. Very secretive.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like these like rich hoity-toity types. I don't know where that's going to go. So yeah, it's not leading with story in any sense. But yeah, it'll be, I'm interested to see what happens. I'm reserving judgment on a lot of it until then.
Now, Kim, the trailer looked very, kind of Breath of the Wild-y. What's the shrine situation like?
So no shrines, but I have been finding orbs. Which, as you recall, when you finish a shrine in Breath of the Wild, you do get an orb.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still not entirely sure what the orbs are. I think what the orbs are is like it increases your fame, which is like some kind of mechanic that's important. I don't quite recall how just yet.
Wow.
But you increase your fame by like winning races and stuff, which by the way, Chase, I don't know if you've done a race, but I
got my ass kicked.
Just got obliterated. It was embarrassing.
Wow.
Well, Quagga doesn't like jumping that much, so it's the whole thing. And maybe I'm not that good at pushing the button at the right time also. But so yeah, there's an orb situation is all I can say. I don't know if we're going to learn more about those orbs or if it's literally just like, hey, you found a cool corner of the map. Here's an orb.
Yeah. Just like a little prize.
Yeah. I'll keep you updated on that though.
Wow. This sounds wild. It's describing like the way that it's just trying to get you to ride a horse and appreciate the horse is so interesting to me. And also the fact that like the main game? Is that what it was called? The website?
The main quest.
The main quest is like a website that exists about talking about horses in games. And that they got this person to work on this game, I think is a really brilliant move for the people who were, the devs, I guess. And I'm really curious to see if like the longer you play this game, or like how much your fame and stuff and like these new horses that you get with different mechanical advantages, like how much of an actual game there is past the point of like, I am riding the horse and I am appreciating the horse that I'm riding. I'm just really curious what the next step in the game is after that. Yeah, I'm excited for your future horse shit.
So good.
Yeah. But otherwise, all that being said, I believe that brings us to the end of the show today, unless anybody else has anything they would like to talk about.
No, video games are good, and
Video
they're for
games
everybody.
Are good
Gaming
and for everybody.
and horses.
Gaming and horses.
Marvel Snap is very good. I didn't talk about that, but it's a game that I'm playing a lot. It's a very good video game.
I've been playing a little bit of Marvel Snap. I know that it's like a big point of like the part of it that is good is that it's not super complex. And it's not like other card games, but part of me like really misses that other part of card games that is like, you know, arguably bad and kind of predatory.
Not sophisticated enough for AJ.
No, it's just like the parts of Hearthstone where like and Magic the Gathering where it's like, you know, there's different seasons and every season there's new cards. I get that in practice and in concept that is a really shitty thing. But I do really enjoy the idea of the game staying like fresh, I guess. And I understand the way that Marvel Snap is kind of getting around that is introducing these new locations and changing the percentage chance that a location shows up as like a huge mechanic of a season of that game. And I can appreciate that. And I really like, you know, I respect it and I think it's the correct move. But I don't know if I'm just like Hearthstone pilled or whatever. But I do kind of miss that, like, I guess crunchiness of like a more classic style card game. That's something I've been thinking a lot about in regards to Marvel Snap. So
nice.
Thanks.
Cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail your outro.
No, you're fine. That's why I asked.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah. But anyway, now I'm ready to end the show. Chase and David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Especially appreciate David taking time out of your study schedule.
Yes, David.
We really appreciate that.
This was a great study break. I honestly appreciate it. Get my mind off of everything else. I go back fresh. It's good.
Nice.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, thanks for having us, you two. I really love async, so it's always a dream to come hang out.
Yeah. Well,
dreams do come true.
Well, we love Podtimism, and we think our listeners should also listen to Podtimism if they're not. So where can they find Podtimism on the internet?
I think the easiest place is podtimism.com. You can go there and like find a link to a Twitter or a place to listen to the episodes. You can suggest an episode if you personally have a game that you're like, hey, this game kind of sucks, but I like it a lot. Then you can tell us to play that, and we will. We've got a little pile of those sort of games right now, and we'll find the thing that we like about it. There's going to be something, I swear to you.
Chase and David played a game that I played growing up that is maybe the hardest game that I have found yet, called Fatal Labyrinth on the Sega Genesis. And I am, in the year 2022, or just past the year 1999, I am thrilled to hear anybody talk about that game because it was weirdly such a formative part of my gaming experience, even though I never got past the first level, I think, because
It's
I was
so hard.
a child.
Video game.
There's no hand holding.
Yeah.
Just throws you in the deep end. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So there's Podtimism.com.
Yep.
Where can they find the two of you?
Sort of on the internet a little bit. I'm at Chase Allhard on Twitter. But I'm not on there that hard, and like maybe less on there soon. So.
Yeah, Twitter's like maybe dying. Unclear.
Honestly, Podtimism I feel like is my biggest internet footprint. So
Sure.
Same.
You know.
Yeah.
Go there if you want to hang out internetly.
Beautiful. And it's also at Podtimism on Twitter, correct?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Great. So thank you two for coming on. And as always, thank you to Scout Wilkinson. Oh my gosh, can we have our own scout out on this?
Scout out.
Please.
This
Scout it
is
out.
A 4-person scout out.
A full scout out to Scout Wilkinson for making our wonderful episode, or our wonderful podcast art, and also the podcast art of Video Game Podtimism.
Yeah, both of them.
Both of them, and they're both
Savant.
really great. Yeah, Scout is great at what she does, and so you should throw her a few bucks over on her Ko-fi page, or just throw her a follow at least on Twitter. Those links are in the show notes. Amaranthin makes our music. Really love the music. Thank you so much, Amaranthin, for that. Links also in the show notes. The Worst Garbage is our podcasting partner, I guess. You can visit. We have a channel in the Discord.
Our partner in pods.
Partner in pods. The Worst Garbage. That link is at the very bottom of the show notes. We'll show you all the other shows on the network, as well as a link to the Discord. And normally we do final words because we are talking about specific parts of a game. But Kim, do you have final words for us today?
I actually do.
Oh.
Always be dancing.
Yes. Always be dancing. Chase and David, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage. Online.
Video game Spritegeist? Is that?
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Yeah.
That's very
Yep.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.